What's up, people? Matthew Belcher with Appalachian Performance Engineering, also known as 8built.com. We did an install an air locker, Yukon air locker, zip locker on a Dana 30 axle here. And I want to do basically a quick video and kind of some tips and tricks on if you're installing an air locker on your setup, what you need to look for and what you need to take your time with. So basically the first step whenever you're installing an air locker is disassembly. You got to disassemble the axle like always. Pull the axle shafts out, start from the hubs, work your way, get the axle shafts out of the axle. Once you got the axle shafts out, then you can pop your center section out, your chunk. And when you're disassembling this, your chunk here, of course this is the air locker installed in it, but when you take the original carrier out of the housing, always pay attention to the shims and location of everything. If you got this many shims on this side, this many shims on that side, that'll basically give you a good starting point for when you're setting your backlash or your preload and your backlash setting to the pinion up there. So always take that into reference. Also note the bearing cap installation side. When you're installing a locker, an air locker, or any type of locker in a center section, you can normally get away with just doing the carrier bearings, and you don't have to do the whole master overall rebuild kit and do the pinion seals and the pinion bearings and all that. You can just do the two bearings on the side of the carrier, and Yukon actually sells those in the kit with the zip locker. So the main thing when you're installing a zip locker, the thing that you need to take the most time on and really pay attention to is your air line. If this is an air locker, so if you lose air pressure on it while you're out in the trail, you're basically out in a locker. So when you're inside the diff and you're installing your airline basically to your airline fitting, wherever you're going to put that on the diff housing, really take your time and take everything into consideration and look at what you're doing here. Yukon actually recommends installing the air fitting about 1.25 inches off the face wherever you need to make it work for your application. However, on our setup here on this Jeep WJ, he's got the Rough Country long arm kit. So, and basically how the WJs, how their suspension system sets up, you can't really go right on the top of the differential. So what we ended up doing is, of course, the air fitting here is on this side, back behind this bearing cap. But we ran the hose up and over and then actually back, if you can see it, and out the back of the differential. There's plenty of clearance on the center section on the carrier. And then we came over here out of the back on the rear end. That's where our air fitting is at. But it actually gave us a good location to bring the air hoses and run them up to the Jeep and out to the compressor and the air fittings and all that. And we couldn't put it on this side because the bump stops. We couldn't put it on the top because of the 4-link mount. And we couldn't really put it on this side because we were getting pretty close to that ring gear, and I didn't want to push it too tight. So I'd just rather be safe than sorry. But when you're, like I said, when you're doing an air locker, take your time. Everything that you do inside the differential, double check your work, triple check your work. Don't kink your air hose in your copper air hose. Fucking shit. Don't kink your copper air hose, your air line that's actually inside the diff there, because then you're gonna lose basically everything you got, and that's important. So pay attention, set your bearings up, set your shims as a good starting point of the old ones that came out, and you can pretty much get spot on. This one we actually set up identical, and then we did the pattern test on the diff to basically check our contact points, and it was all good from the start. So we just set it back to the original setting, and we had luck. Preload, everything's set right. So anyways, when you're installing an air locker, take your time. When you're doing axle work, period, always take your time. This Jeep here we got in the shop right now, it's a WJ. Got the 4-inch long arm kit, 4-inch lift kit with the long arms. And we're putting them some new tires. We put a locker in the rear, a locker in the front. We put a zip locker or a Spartan locker in the rear because actually it's got an aluminum housing on that Dana 44 on these WJs. I don't know why they did that, but they did. But anyways, we put a Spartan locker in the rear because that's about the only option we had on this application. It'll have that clicking noise when you're turning, but he's still got a locker in the back. 33-inch tires. We had to trim the fenders out pretty good to get this thing stuff up in there, but it's working and we're making it fit. We got rock sliders built for it. We're gonna have some rock sliders on this thing when she leaves here. So you have lockers front and rear, new tires, new rims. We built the skid plate for this fella. I don't know if you can see that. Full underbelly skid of the Transpan. We did that about 6 months ago, and he was happy with it and brought it back for some more work here. So you got any questions? Comment below. And thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe. 8build.com. Appreciate you.